This monster is 8K capable, 120 frames per second of 4K with HDR capabilities. It's got a flip around screen, Leica lens, and it's just one of the smartest cameras on the market at the moment. Let's get into it. The Insta360 Ace Pro is a camera which, when I first saw it, kind of excited by. They are really cool, and we recently did a review of the Osmo 3 Pocket and I really enjoyed shooting with that camera. It started making me think, do I need a small action camera in order to fill out the roles of creating reels for my social media, but also just something small that I can keep in my pocket and just shoot what I feel like it whenever I feel like it. This camera does not disappoint. I can pretty much trust it in most situations. I've tested it both in low light situations, out and about. I've also tested its waterproof, as you saw in the intro. So it's waterproof. I mean, well, it was gonna be waterproof, really, wasn't it? But it was cool to check out anyway. I mean, you know, dipping a camera in water is always a little bit fun. I really like the idea of this camera. It's quite cool. It's got the ability to use AI features, which I think is going to be invaluable. So I'm actually going to be testing out the AI features in particular in a number of different situations. First of all, it's going to be this one. So out and about in the street and just get some shots. The following clips were created using the Insta360 app, and it's a cool effect. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect, but it adds a little extra flair to something that could otherwise be fairly boring. The AI features, I'm going to use both for me and Tyler at the shop to be able to create sort of like an imagination kind of like feel. You can also be a little bit more selective with what you actually generate as well. So picking either a person or picking the background. It's pretty in-depth, but really just the start to something that I feel like is going to be so much cooler. Okay, so this is the 4K 24 frames per second shot on the Insta Ace Pro. So this is the 8K mode on the Insta Ace Pro. So the shots previously were on de-warp mode. So that's like making sure that you haven't got that typical kind of action camera footage. It's now on ultra mode. So this is horizon lock mode. So whenever I've got it at an angle, you probably can't see it because it's like, yeah. Is it actually changing the exposure automatically though? Furby in the editing booth here. What I say here is that the horizon lock isn't as reactive as I would actually initially hope it would have been. When it comes to action sports, it is going to react a little bit faster, at least from the footage that we've seen. However, here, because I was moving it slower and it's not really in the purpose that it was designed for, it didn't work as well. What I'm going to be doing for the most part today is sticking it on the attachment on my bag. This is so I can just get BTS footage of me doing this day. Bring my aperture up. I just had a look at the shots when I grabbed a coffee quickly, and they are pretty good for what you would get out of an action camera. So of course you got the 8K mode there, which allows you to create reels and normal YouTube videos really quite easily. And I feel like that's what it's going to be super useful for, in particular this camera. The other thing I want you guys to let me know is if you want me to see if we can test it out in an FPV situation, to see if we can actually get some cool shots that way as well. Of course, when it comes to Insta360 action cameras, they do actually have a lot of functions to them. Let's get back to the office to actually go through them a little bit better. So is this genuinely the first time AI intelligent camera can actually describe something? Because this camera has a whole suite of intelligent modes to give you a bunch of different capabilities. Now, is this camera for me? There are parts of it that I love. There are some parts of it that I think are a little bit gimmicky, if I'm honest, but I see it being quite popular. And the reason why I see it being quite popular is the fact that it's a stress-free experience from start to finish. Because of that intelligent capability inside of the actual camera, you've got the ability to edit the videos without putting any kind of input into it. You've got the ability to use generative AI to make your videos have a little bit more flair, and a whole suite of really interesting features. Now, is it something that needs to be implemented in cameras going forward? Do I see it being put into a camera like an FX3 or a general photography camera? I don't think so. And the reason why I think it works well in this, or I think it's going to be popular because it has the capability of doing it, is the fact it's geared towards a more action-orientated audience. So people that go do a lot of high-speed sports and stuff like that and just want to push out a video of their general experience. You can do it all via the app without any extra DaVinci, Premiere or anything like that, and that's quite nice in and of itself. The generative AI allows you to create some interesting looking reels that are different from a lot of other things that are being produced right now, and in many ways it's actually quite impressive. The thing that I would say is the video for this particular product makes it seem like it's a really fast experience when it comes to the generative AI. Through the experience that I've had with it, personally, it's not massively fast, and they only give you 90 credits. So that's 90 videos that you can use a month to be able to create interesting looking footage. Now, 90 does sound a lot if you're just pushing out 1 or 2 of these videos a month. That's cool. But if you're pushing out like an entire video and you want to do some crazy stuff with generative AI, I can see that 90 a month actually being very limiting. But you can get some cool stuff with it. So it's a bit to and fro as to how useful it's going to be, or how hindering is it going to be. Going on to the magnetic mount. The magnetic mount is quite cool, but the thing I would say about it is, from experiencing a slight drop, luckily on some carpet, the magnetic mount you need to be sure that it's connected, because it can just click in and it feels okay, but it might knock out fairly easily. Now this is something just with a little bit more mind to it. You're not going to experience a bad thing when it comes to the mount, but it is something that I experienced personally whilst actually using this camera, and I thought I'd just be honest there. For the most part, there's people are going to be using this for video, so the 120 frames per second of slow motion is actually really nice, but the other side of it is the HDR features is something that I've experienced with a few action cameras in the past, where it doesn't quite expose things correctly automatically. And the reason why I don't go into manually correcting the exposure when it comes to action cameras is, realistically, most of the people that buy these aren't necessarily going to be using manual settings. They're going to put it in auto and see how well it does. Speaking of video, let's talk about the low light performance. When it comes to the pure video, I took it out at night and through the camera it looked quite grainy. I'm going to pass over to editing Stuart to confirm if it was actually actually worked out. The footage, as you see, is very usable. It's some of the best performance I've actually seen out of an action camera, and I really like this camera overall pretty much. All of the features that it actually has, I mean, you got the ability to pause your video and then continue it rather than just flat out stop recording. That I can see being quite useful. I don't necessarily see it as a way to speed up my workflow, because I'm not going to be going back through a large playback library in order just to find one clip in which I can then continue if I'm just getting one clip for just like talking head. So it's cool. Am I going to use it? Probably not. But the camera itself, I was very impressed with, and if I'm honest, I'm going to continue using it going forward for a lot of the things that I do, just in terms of like BTS and general use of the actual camera. So I am impressed. Very good, very smart, and I'm going to be really interested to see what I can do with this in the future. If you like this video, make sure you like, follow and subscribe if you want to see more. Have a good day.